Welcome to the Chef's Kitchen Healthy Fine Dining series. I'm your host, Nicole Gaffney, and we're here today with St. Luke's University Health Network, where we're joining together doctors and chefs to create healthy new menu options to be featured at their restaurants. Joining me in the kitchen today is Chef Lee Chizmar of Bolete and Dr. Kathy Chen. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Always great to have you in the kitchen, Lee, and a pleasure to have you here, Kathy, as well. So what are we making today?
So today we're going to do Cast Iron Seared Halibut, and we're going to serve it over kind of like a deconstructed lobster bake.
Let's get started. Okay. It's always so much fun cooking with you, and we have a really cool assortment of ingredients, so I'm excited.
So the first thing I'm going to do is just start with a little bit of oil.
Okay.
We have our lobster bones or bodies.
A lot of flavor in there, right?
A lot of flavor in there, especially the bottom sections. These still have a lot of meat in the legs.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do is when you clean them, you basically pull the heads off here. And they have gills down the side. You want to scrape those out because they can turn your broth bitter, right? And that's really the only trick. So I usually like to just kind of start them right off in my pot.
So you saute them a little first?
I like to dry them out a touch just in the pan, all right?
Now, Kathy, do you like to cook?
I do, and we eat a lot of lobster.
Nice.
I've never seen, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, using the flavor.
Utilizing all of the different pieces.
That usually ends up in the trash a lot of times.
And it's so simple.
Yeah, seafood's usually so intimidating to a lot of folks.
It is, a lot of home cooks especially. Yeah, but it sounds like you cook a lot of it at your house.
We do, but that's a great idea. I love that idea of not wasting.
Exactly.
All right, so next I'm just going to slice a little bit of garlic.
And your signature back slice?
Yes, the signature back slice, which is just kind of allowing the knife to slice through, which actually helps you not tearing the cells, which gets the flavor of the garlic a little bit more mellow. And then we have some celery that we cut up. I have a little bit of fennel here.
Fennel's a great pairing with lobster.
You know what, it's fantastic. And I know a lot of people, I think fennel kind of gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does, yeah.
You know, but I don't know, caramelized fennel is like one of my favorite flavors. And it does meld really, really well with the lobster itself.
I think people just automatically associate it with licorice.
Right.
And it is anisey, licoricey, but I hate licorice and I love fennel.
I'm the same way. So we have a little bit of white onion here.
Okay.
I'm cutting these all pretty thin because I want to do this really quickly.
Okay.
I love how everything's so colorful. There's a lot of color in cooking and eating.
Yeah, those lobster shells for sure.
And I think color can actually tell you a lot.
Yeah.
Because when the colors are off, sometimes you've overcooked something or...
It's true, yeah.
So I have a little bit of leek here. I'm going to add that to it. Here I have some lemongrass. It's just a small piece. What I like to do is I usually just use the back of my knife and kind of bang it.
Where do you get lemongrass from?
So usually you can find it at farmers markets. I have seen it in the grocery store. A lot of times Asian markets will have it also. It's a nice place to look for it.
So you just kind of release the oils there?
Yep, I'm just breaking the cells to allow the flavor to extract because it is a very tough, lemongrass is pretty tough. So you break it up, that allows the flavor to come out a little bit. I have some ginger here. When you're in a hurry, ginger, the skin of ginger is actually pretty neutral. So we can just slice it and throw it right in because we're going to strain it. A nice trick with ginger, when you do have to peel it, is actually just to use a spoon, which is one of my favorite things. And you can just take your spoon and the skin comes right off.
Yes, you do that without getting off any of the actual middle part of the ginger.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little white wine here and pour this in. We're going to let that reduce down. And as this is reducing, let's jump over and we can start our prep over here.
Okay. Now, Dr. Chen, can I call you Kathy?
Yes.
Yeah. What type of medicine do you practice, and tell me why?
So I'm a pediatric GI, and so in my world, I do pediatrics, and we do GI, gastrointestinal, nutrition, and hepatology. So nutrition's a big part of what I do, and we do a lot of what to eat, what's good for you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. What made you go into that type of medicine, and with children especially?
I really like the relationships that I get because it's such a big family as well as the patient. It gives me a bigger relationship circle.
That's great.
Yeah. My name is Dr. Kathy Chen. I am a pediatric gastroenterologist. So the most common complaint that we see is belly pain, and belly pain can be very common in pediatrics especially, but if it's been going on for a while and they've tried different measures and it's just not getting better, that's the time to come in. Nutrition's a huge part of what we do. The biggest thing I like to do is kind of broad strokes, what type of diet the child is eating, how much of other calories they bring in that's not nutritious, such as juice or candy, that type of thing. We have registered dietitians within our office that can help us tease out much more of the detailed parts of that.
This is a plastic container, and one of the things we like to use these at the restaurant because it protects your knife. And so this is a great way. I use a serrated knife sometimes with corn, and we're just going to come right down, and you're going to cut the corn right into the container.
I love that, so
this
it catches
way,
everything.
Yes, and you don't have to worry about really, I mean, it's still not great for your knife, but it's a lot better than doing it on a piece of metal
or glass,
sometimes people do it on the back of the bowl. So if you want to go ahead and
Great.
knock that stuff out. I'm just going to come back over here, and I have some miso that I'm going to add to our broth.
So a lot of flavor going on.
Yes, a lot of flavor. And you really, that's kind of brings out that umami, you know, the fermented bean paste.
We use a lot of miso too. It's a great flavor.
It's so good.
Definitely.
I'm going to add some soy to this. All right. And now we've kind of sweated out our vegetables.
Okay.
I'm going to add the tomato paste over there if you want to grab it.
Sure.
And I'm going to come in and just add some cold water right to our stock. All right, so a lot of times with tomato paste, when you make stocks, if it's a dark stock, a lot of times you would actually cook the tomato paste out. So you would add it to your vegetables.
Kind of caramelize it.
Caramelize it, and that's going to give your stocks a really beautiful color. This is also slightly for flavor, but it's also for color.
Sure.
Because one of the things you want with lobsters, they're red. You want
Yeah,
a
you want it
really
to look like
beautiful
lobster,
red
yeah.
lobster stock. So here I'm just going to add a little bit of salt to start off. Wow.
This
She's doing a great job.
All right.
This corn is so fresh.
Yeah. I'm going to steal a little piece.
All right.
I'm going to taste it.
And I would say with your knife skills over
So
there,
sweet.
if the medical profession doesn't work out for you, I have a job in our kitchen for sure.
Now, you mentioned nutrition is a big part of your
Yes.
practice. What type of diet do you advise your patients on?
So I like to start with big strokes, and I always say lots of color.
Sure, yeah.
A lot of my children that I see in the office are very picky.
I'm sure.
And so we usually start very simple, and one of my favorite things to say is Dr. Chen would like you to eat something green every day.
Yep.
And then they always pause for a while. And I'm like, let's try to work through some ideas, like broccoli or string bean, you know, something simple. A lot of times we're working very, very baby steps.
Of course. You make progress eventually?
They like to come back. They like to make me happy. So
Yeah,
a lot of times
that's good.
they come back and they'll say, I tried broccoli today.
Aw,
So
that's really sweet. But I'm sure it's important to kind of create those foundations when people are young, so they're not bringing those habits into adulthood.
yeah.
Next, I'm going to have you clean a little bit of chanterelles here.
These are beautiful.
So these are Pennsylvania chanterelles, which are
course.
really nice, so locally foraged. And so one of the things that we'll do is, usually when we get them in, we'll actually just cut the stems off, and then you can kind of feel it's a little woody there. All right, so basically we're going to come in and just take your paring knife and kind of peel those down. All right, and then once you have them peeled, basically the best way to do it is just split them.
Break them open.
All right,
Nice.
and they
Okay.
just kind of split right up. All right, so if you want to go ahead and start there.
Okay, great.
This would not be a Lee Chizmar dish without mushrooms.
Of course, yeah, I almost forgot them, and I was like, wait a minute, we're missing something. All right, so as we're sauteing the corn, I'm going to go ahead and start steaming the clams here.
Okay.
So I have a little of our lobster dashi here. So, and I usually use a nice lid.
That smells incredible
Yeah.
too. It smells like the best lobster bisque I've ever had.
So as we add the clams to it, the clams also are going to add a lot of their natural juices and flavors to this, which is just going to fortify it and make it taste even better. All right. So we'll drop those guys in.
Where do you get your clams from? Are they
So-
semi-local to Pennsylvania?
No, well, most of our seafood comes from Massachusetts.
Okay.
Or West Coast. You know, there's a lot of big fisheries up there that we
Sure.
get stuff in. And we try to do 100% sustainable.
The most important thing.
Yes, for sure. So next, let's add, I have some potatoes.
kind of reach over you and grab these. Thank you.
And these are just roasted fingerling potatoes. We did a little bit of garlic, thyme, a little bit of oil, and roasted them 350 degrees. It usually takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's one of the things, potatoes have different starch contents, sugar contents. So the time that you roast them, it's
going to depend.
different. Yeah, so usually we just use a knife, stick it in, and when you lift it up and the potato falls off, it's good. Knife tip.
All right.
All right, so we'll add that there.
Now, so this seafood-inspired recipe, is this something that you're serving at your new restaurant in the Easton Public Market?
So this is maybe a little over the top for, for that. That's kind of more of a New England style clam shack, but the menu changes there a lot, and we're evolving to make sure that we get all the good fresh ingredients.
Of course, yeah. So this is definitely more on the Bolete level.
Yes.
So the interesting part about with GI is that there's a whole bunch of techniques that they use in the adult world, such as endoscopies and camera tests, that we're now bringing into the pediatric realm. A lot of it was that size was a huge issue with these tools to get inside and see different things going on inside the GI tract, and now we're having access to a lot of these type of testing. I love working with the St. Luke's network, and one of the biggest things is that the pediatricians are really tied with us. We have a lot of very close relationship with them, so we have a back and forth communication with the primary caregivers, the family practice docs, the pediatricians, as well as the patients, and it's a full circle to take care of their child.
I'm going to add some garlic here. Nicole, if you want to just add some julienne white onions.
All of them?
Yeah,
not that much?
A little bit more. And then I also have some leeks left over that we're going to go ahead and add. All right. All right, so this was fantastic.
Great job.
Next, if we were at home, basically what we do is wash these. All right, next I'm going to have you clean some tomatoes. And this is a little trick that we'll do in the restaurant. I like to make a little fence for my tomatoes. From here, you're just going to take the stems off. And then you can kind of roll them out and slice. So there's no wasted motion.
Okay.
All right. So I've added our Tuscan kale to this. I'm going to take a little bit of lemon juice here. And I like to do a little sherry vinegar with this. And that's actually something too that I'm going to add back to the broth.
Nice.
I think sherry vinegar goes really great with lobster. Of course, lemon. Let's take a nice pinch of thyme here. Drop this guy in. And so we are just about to be able to start our halibut.
How do you select your cut of the halibut?
Great question.
So we always get whole fish in. So it is one of those things where you can kind of see here, see how it's translucent
it's
a little bit?
It looks like a scallop.
Yeah, and that's the way you look. Sometimes you see them when they're like chalky white, and you can't see them. I would stay away from that.
Okay.
Because usually it means it's frozen, or maybe the fish wasn't treated so well. All right, so over here I'm getting a little bit of smoke. So that means I'm ready to go. So I'm just gonna come in here and season my halibut. I always season one side first. I'll season the other side in the pan before we're ready to flip it over.
You always recommend cooking something like this in cast iron?
So cast iron, it's kind of my workhorse.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. It holds the heat really well. For the money, I don't think you can get anything better.
For sure. Just take care of it.
Yep, just take care of it. All right, so now that my fish is in there, I'm gonna wait just a minute. I have it on high. I'm gonna wait a minute. The fish actually cools down the temperature of your pan. Cast iron helps because it is so heavy. So once it kind of returns to that smoke point, you can kind of see there's more smoke coming off of it. It's returning to the temperature. So now I can kind of turn it down a little bit.
Okay.
Now, one of the things, it's the same kind of thing with the potatoes. The halibut, every time you cook a different piece of halibut from a different fish, sometimes there's more fat in it, sometimes there's still more sugar, the protein can be different, more moisture. So you never cook the same piece of fish the same way twice, really. So what I want to do is I just want to flip it over. I get hot spots in my pan, so it's searing on one side better than the other. This will also tell me, see how this side is not as caramelized as that side? So what I'm actually going to do is I'll switch spots, okay? And I'm still going to kind of spin that guy around. One of the things, sometimes it'll caramelize right away. which means I have to turn my temperature down.
Okay.
This, and sometimes it takes more, higher heat longer.
Right.
So this is kind of cooking very nicely, so I'm just gonna kind of let it go at the temperature that we have.
Halibut, you want to cook that all the way through, right?
Well, you know, it's kind of preference.
Yeah.
We like to do a nice medium rare to medium.
Oh, okay.
Some people do enjoy it rare. This is sushi quality fish. You
Sure.
can do it for sure. All right, so I'm coming over. So this is some of our lobster dashi broth. I'm just gonna add this to the set. All right.
Yeah.
Now we can take a look at our clams. Ooh, they're steaming up very nicely.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
love clams.
All right, so I'm just gonna toss this carefully. Maybe I'll use a spoon.
So beautiful, all the colors.
It really is.
It's really.
Everything's
really
always
nice.
so earthy that you do. I love that.
Well, thank
You have a very specific style that you always bring to the table when you're
Thank you
here.
very
That's a
much.
good thing. I mean that as a compliment.
Well, awesome. All right, so my clams are good. So I'm just going to kind of turn this guy off. I want some of this liquid in here too.
Because now that clam juice is all in there.
Yes. All right. So, and with the clams, if you have something that doesn't open up, you don't use it.
Okay.
It usually means it's dead. But it looks like we have all really great clams in there. They've all opened up. So let's go ahead and give this a stir here. Why don't you go ahead, Dr. Chen, and add some parsley there. And then I would probably add a quarter of the tomatoes actually to the broth. Yeah, just kind of sprinkle it around.
A lot of times kids are not able to verbalize exactly what's bothering them, and then they don't have the words exactly for something that might be worrisome or that they worry about, and so they describe it as pain, their stomach hurts. And if that becomes something that occurs on a daily basis, especially in the morning time before going to school, that's something that we want to kind of tease out. Diet is a big part of what we see and we try to talk to them about. We also have a lot of questions about lifestyle and other things that could be causing pain, such as anxiety or constipation is another big cause too.
So from our lobster, we have.
You're working with all claw meat, or you have
So
some
I
tail in there
have
too?
2 claws and
Okay.
2 tails. You just kind of come in here so people can really see what they're eating. All right.
I love lobster. It's definitely one of my favorite types of seafood.
All right, nice big chunks. All right, and then we're gonna add this right to it.
Oh, beautiful.
All right. So let's go ahead and just kind of give this a stir here. All right, and I'll leave that
Smells
right there.
incredible in here.
All right, now we'll come back to our fish. So basically we're trying to cook it 3/4 of the way on one side, so you get that really beautiful sear. So I'm going to come in.
You can see that color around the edges.
Yes. So I'm going to season it now. That'll pull some of the moisture out. Then what I like to do is, and if you would like to grab like maybe 2 thyme sprigs over there, add just a little bit of butter. Now you've noticed this is the first butter that we've used.
Yes, it is.
This will crackle a little bit, so just be careful. I'm actually going to turn the heat off. I'm going to add a few drops of sherry vinegar. And
oh, that thyme smells so good.
a few drops of lemon.
Lemon, nice.
And then we're going to come in and flip her over.
Oh, that is
All right.
gorgeous.
So it's,
Well done.
we have a really nice seared halibut there. All right. One last thing. So now we have our stock. It's boiling really nicely.
Yeah.
So now what we want to do is I'm actually going to shut the heat off. I'm going to take my kombu, or kelp,
cool.
and just add this in.
Where did you get that from?
So those also you can get usually at Asian markets.
Okay.
And they do, you know, Wegmans and Whole Foods does a really great job.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so we're going to come in, and now this is Bonito Flakes.
Dancing
which are,
Bonito Flakes.
Yes, and it's beautiful to kind of watch. If you want to garnish, you know, when we have hot broth, we can always garnish with a little of those. And if they go to the table, you see them just kind of moving around, which is really cool. This is nice. I like this because it gives you almost like this feel of bacon a little bit. Without it, you have that smoky flavor,
Yeah.
that real umami kind of taste. All right, so I think we're ready to go.
We shop a lot at Asian grocery stores, and it's nice to see this stuff becoming much more widely
Definitely,
available. The
yeah.
miso,
Right.
and the seaweed.
The lemongrass.
Yeah, the
kombu.
lemongrass.
So excited to see how this whole thing comes together.
All right, so we're gonna come in, just kind of give it a nice stir. And you see there's beautiful, beautiful colors. The lobster's there. We have the nice green of the parsley.
beautiful. I love that you managed to sneak a little kale in there.
Yep. Kale is one of my favorite vegetables,
Yeah.
and I think there's always room for a little kale if you
For
can.
sure.
All right, so we'll drop our clams. I usually just like to kind of put them right around the outside.
Do your kids eat this kind of food too?
Yes, I'm very fortunate. My kids are very, very adventurous eaters.
Yeah,
Great.
good.
So we're lucky. They love oysters. They love lobster.
That's amazing.
So we're gonna go ahead and add
That's beautiful.
a little bit right there. This is where we have a little micro radish that we can kind of sprinkle on. And just for fun, if we want to do it, we can just do a little
Why not, right?
of the Bonito Flakes
Let it
kind of
dance.
around and let them dance around a little bit.
Awesome.
All right.
They are moving.
Yeah.
It's
They're so
alive.
fun. This looks great, Lee. I can't wait to try it. Let's dig in. I'm going to go right for a clam.
Get the halibut crisp. The vegetables, everything.
The freshness of the halibut. Like you were saying earlier about the freshness of fish and how much it really matters. That's a perfect example of why.
I like the caramelized part.
Thank you.
Definitely
I'm
the
glad you
best
guys
part.
enjoyed
Now I have to get a piece of lobster. I mean, it's kind of all about
Yeah.
the lobster here, isn't it?
it. For sure.
It's so good, and for a dish that's so light, like you only use that tiny little bit of butter to
Which
baste.
you don't have to do, but that's really the only component in there that's not.
And typically I'm taking lobster and just drowning it
Right.
in a bunch of
Right.
drawn butter, so this is a much better way to eat it, and all of the other seafood as well. Lee, it's always such a pleasure having you in our kitchen.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always great to be
Congratulations
here.
on Silver Shell.
Yep,
Counter
Silver
and
Shell
Kitchen.
Counter and Kitchen.
And you
which
have
is-
Mr. Lee's
Mr.
Noodle
Lee's
Bar as
Noodles,
well,
yep.
over at the Easton Public Market, and of course Bolete.
Yes.
And Kathy, Chen, thank you so
Thank
much
you for
being on
having
the show
me.
today. St. Luke's University Health Network is a great partner of ours, and we're thrilled to have you in our kitchen.
Thank you.
I like to be on Chef's Kitchen because it gets me a chance to get out of my kitchen and actually share what we do there with people and the viewers of the show.